All right. Good evening, baseball fans. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network, the only exclusive baseball podcast on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. I am riddled with COVID. Dalton is not. So if I sound nasally and my hair is all kerfuffled, then excuse me. I've been sick for the last week. Dalton, how are you doing, my friend?
Well, a little bit better than you apparently. Let me know if you need me to carry a little bit more of the load today. Certainly happy to, and good to be back after the All-Star break. Certainly plenty to talk about. Honestly, there's even more that I wanted to add to our topics for today, but we'll probably touch on a little bit more as we go along than what we've got down on the sheet. But I'm excited to dive into it with you. There's a lot to discuss.
Yep, there sure is. And some of that stuff that we're going to be discussing today, a little bit coming up a little bit later. I have just a pretty strong opinion on the home run derby as a whole. Teoscar Hernandez, your guy, ended up winning the whole thing. That must have been pretty exciting for you. But home run derby, All-Star weekend, we'll talk about that a little bit later. The Astros, as Dalton, and I guess I've kind of piggybacked off him a little bit, predicted that there's a movement in the AL West to the point where we are seeing the Astros. They take the lead in the AL West over the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners then fall out of the playoffs, not even just the division. They are currently sitting outside of the playoffs at the moment. We'll touch on that as well. We'll give you some bold predictions for the second half, whether it's trades, anything like that. We'll touch on that a little bit later as well. And then at the end of the show today, as we do every single show, Dalton's Hot Corner, put some more money in your pocket. Let's get started today with this, as we do with every show. We cater to our own fan bases. Sorry, not sorry. Yankees, Dodgers. Here we go. Okay. Yankee rant today. We're fresh out of the All-Star break, so to be fair, there isn't much to rant about. However, I will say this. It hasn't gotten terrible yet since the All-Star break, right? The Yankees went into the All-Star break taking 2 out of 3 from Baltimore in Baltimore. That seemed to be a good sign, right? After a terrible stretch for about a month, you win a series in Baltimore to go into the All-Star break. I love it. I'm good. Then you take, you split a 4-game series with Tampa right out of the All-Star break at Yankee Stadium. Don't love that. It's fine. Don't love it. So here's the thing. Ben Rice is the new hot commodity right now for the Yankees, right? Left-handed hitting, 25-year-old catcher, first baseman. He's been playing a lot of first base, obviously with Anthony Rizzo out with injury. And before the All-Star break, he was starting to get really hot, right? They were starting to hit him cleanup. He's now hitting in the leadoff spot for the Yankees, which they seemingly can't find a guy that can sustain himself in that position, which is really kind of troubling. But Ben Rice was red hot. OPS was about 950. I mean, we're talking like he comes into the major leagues. He had 3 home runs in 1 game. Like, we're starting to see something here with this kid. Left-handed bat, Yankee Stadium, the whole bit. We already understand what that translates to. He is now hitting 211, 767 OPS, which again is not terrible, but he is now 4 for his last 40 or so. I mean, like I said a couple of weeks ago, right? My big thing with the Yankees right now is that, and we're going to go, this is where this topic is going to come up a lot because it's trade deadline time and all the Brian Cashman bashing is going to happen right now, right? If they don't trade for Crochet or they don't trade for, I don't know, they don't trade for the guy that you want. Keep this in the back of your mind, okay? The Yankees should be better than they are because the roster is built with high value players and former top prospects at virtually every position. Okay. This roster is built. Okay. If you want to look at somebody to blame, okay. Has Gleyber Torres really lived up to it? No, not really. Has Anthony Volpe lived up to it? No, not really. Has Austin Wells lived up to it? And as much as I like Austin Wells, and he's been playing pretty well recently, no, he really hasn't, right? Like, we're just kind of getting to a point here where, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I kind of have the same gripe. You have to look internally at the organization. Something is happening at the major league level where whether it's like whether they're teaching something different at the major league level than they are in the minors, where it's a swing change. And I don't expect for guys to come into the major leagues and just take off and start hitting 35 home runs like they were in the minors. That's not my expectation, but it is a catastrophic fall. Like, it is an unbelievable fall in production. I mean, Ben Wright is not a strikeout guy. He's got like 20 strikeouts in his last 40 at bats. He went 0 for 5 today with 3 strikeouts. Like, this is kind of where we're getting at now. So outside of Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, who are very clearly studs and top 5 players in baseball, like, really, what are we getting out of this player development staff with the Yankees? And that's really where I think there needs to be trouble. So it hasn't gotten terrible yet, but it's safe to say that I'm a little skeptical. I'm a little pessimistic for the future, Dalton.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. I can understand why you feel that way. I think, you and I had a pretty good conversation on this topic on the last episode, and I would echo everything that we said then. I think it's still the case. It's going to be the case for the foreseeable future, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do to get past that. The obvious path forward for the Yankees at this point would seem to be to trade for at least a bat. Yeah. And at this point, I don't think they can be all that choosy about what position the bat plays. They're going to have to just figure it out. And there aren't that many premium bats out there unless you're willing to pay, a premium price. So it'll be really interesting. There's a lot to talk about the trade deadline, and we'll certainly be peppering that throughout the show as we go. I'll jump into my Dodger rant here as well. I'm going to try to hit like 5 or 6 things really quickly with the Dodgers because there's just a ton going on. Like, we're 3 games out of the break. I'll start with that. The sweep of Boston was cool. 2 late comebacks and then 1, dominant offensive performance where Evan Phillips falls apart, which is a concern. As far as sweeps go, it was like not super convincing and didn't leave me feeling that positive. Only because like our closer is clearly not really our closer anymore. But that's how bullpens go. These things are fickle. They come and they go. Hopefully he can turn it around. It seems like it's a command issue. So not going to get too caught up on that. Great to see them win 3 games out of the break, especially given how pathetic they had looked going into the break. This is a team where, look, most teams in the league, 59-41, you're pretty happy. I'm not. I think that's falling way below expectation, even when you consider the fact that they have all the injuries that they do. That being said, a lot of roster moves going on at the moment. James Paxton was designated for assignment today, despite being 8-2, ERA in the mid-4s, but the other metrics like FIP and expected ERA suggest that he should have been a lot worse than he is. Seems that the Dodgers' thought process there is with Kershaw coming back this week and Glasnow coming back this week and River Ryan getting called up, they seem to just want to go other directions with their starting pitching. I think they think that in the next 7 days they can get some kind of a prospect in a trade for Paxton. More power to him, right? I mean, Paxton, I'll give him this. He's the only guy that's hit his turn in the rotation every single time through all year. He's gone out there and given the Dodgers about 5 innings every start. Some of them have been disastrous. Some of them have been pretty good. Overall, I'd say he did exactly what the Dodgers wanted him and needed him to do. So tip of the cap to James Paxton. I wish him the best wherever he ends up. Certainly appreciated his service time with the Dodgers. Touching on those reinforcements, Clayton Kershaw, the message I want to send on this, like, number one, let's not be expecting this guy to be 2014 Clayton Kershaw, right? Like, he's coming off major injuries. He isn't even fully built up in the minors at this point. So the workload's going to be small. The stuff is not going to be 100%. But I'm excited to see how he looks going against that Giants lineup in the next couple days. And mostly the message I want to get across is don't take it for granted. Like, this is a guy that we've seen pitch for the Dodgers since 2008. And it's a blessing to see him wearing that Dodger white, taking the mound on Dodger Stadium Thursday afternoon. Enjoy it. Soak it in. right? It's not something that we're going to get to see all that much longer, if we're being real. So, two other things to touch on, and then I will end my super long Dodger rant. One of them is a positive. Gavin Lux had an awesome weekend against Boston. He actually won NL Player of the Week over those 3 games. He went 5 for 9, hit a couple homers, drove in some big runs. If those bottom of the order bats, especially a guy like Gavin Lux, can start to produce at even just like a league average level, this lineup is going to look a lot better in a hurry because the top 5, even with the injuries, have been dominant. So good for Gavin Lux. He's a guy that's been through a ton with injuries and everything else over the last couple of years. Really happy to see him find some success, even if it's just over the course of a weekend. And I hope for his sake that he can keep it going because his roster spot is not guaranteed for very much longer. Just given Mookie's return and Rojas playing okay. The Rojas injury probably helps him. But and then the last thing I want to touch on with the Dodgers, I'm officially declaring this hate week. And really, it's hate for the next week and a half. Fun part of the schedule here: you get 4 games at home with San Francisco, and then you go down to Houston for 3. And then if you want to include the series in San Diego after that, you can do that as well. But should be a pretty charged up week on Dodgers Twitter this week. I will try to avoid the toxicity that is sure to come about with the Dodgers playing both the Giants and the Astros back to back. I'm sure that there will be tons of super rational comments made from people on all sides, but
I think it's going to be great.
Should be a fun week of baseball. Looking forward to getting these pitchers back. It's not just the starters with Kershaw and Glass now. It's also River Ryan making his debut tonight. Can't wait to see how he looks. Brusdar Graterol is almost back. Ryan Brazier is almost back in the bullpen. Joe Kelly just came back. We're talking 5, 6, 7 pitchers coming back in the next 2 weeks. It's going to go a long way, I hope. So it's an exciting time. Hopefully we can kind of pull out of these doldrums. The All-Star break came at a big time for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, dude, that's you and I can share in that sentiment. Something we can also share in also is that, for both of our teams, James Paxton was serviceable but mid. I think that's something that you and I can now share.
Exactly what we needed him to be. Just a guy who made some innings.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not what James Paxton was for us. We were really kind of hoping James Paxton would be a stud, and he was pretty mid. But hey, listen, I actually liked him when he was in the Bronx. He was a solid guy. I liked him. He was a funny presence in the clubhouse. So okay. There we go for rants. Let's get a little bit of a score update going here. Only one early game today. The Yankees with a 9-1 win over the Rays in New York. Juan Soto had 2 home runs in that game, and Carlos Rodon 7 innings of 1 run baseball, 10 strikeouts. Again, like I said before, it hasn't gotten awful yet for the Yankees, right? Like Volpe is started off the All-Star break pretty good. Soto's playing incredible. Judge is Aaron Judge. Austin Wells playing decent. Like, we got a DJ LeMahieu home run today, which I thought was never coming with how he's looked at the plate. So there's something there. So the Yankees win 9-1 in the Bronx against Tampa Bay. And then as of right now, the Tigers right now have a 6-1 lead over the Guardians in Cleveland in the bottom of the 6th. And who's the pitcher for Detroit? Of course, it is Teoscar Hernandez. So you think, and maybe this is one of your bold predictions, so I don't want to spoil anything. You think Tarek Skubal gets traded?
No, I don't. Because I think what it would take to trade him I think the only team that realistically could swing that kind of a trade would be Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for them to make that trade, you are parting with like all-star level talent, young talent.
Yep.
Like there's just no other way. This is a guy who there's plenty of club control on. This is a guy who is clearly like an ace, a top of the line ace in the majors.
Yep.
And look, Detroit's not that far away. They're 2 games under 500. And watching the Dodgers play the Tigers last weekend, like this is a team that's not that bad. Like the pitching is okay. The hitting is coming around a little bit. Some of these younger guys like Colt Keith, Justin Henry Malloy, they're starting to hit the ball. So look, I think the Tigers are a year away. I don't think it makes sense for them to tear it down. especially not to trade the franchise centerpiece and Scooble. Now, do I think guys on shorter term type deals are going to go? Yeah, like Jack Flaherty, it makes sense for them to deal. But I think Scooble sticks around.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be interesting how that whole thing pans out if Detroit just kind of shuts down as the deadline draws closer. But if Baltimore is saying, okay, like, we'll give you Jackson Holiday plus, like,
I think it would take more than that, though. I mean, I think you're talking Jackson Holiday, probably talking Mayo, maybe Kowser. Like, you're talking
right
2 or 3 like top level
top, right,
and probably more down below that too. Because the Tigers they don't have any reason that they need to move Tarek Skubal, right?
No.
They're going to need to have their socks blown off. And I'm not even I'm not even sure that they're going to pick up the phone either.
That they might not. They might not. Well, listen, if you and I were the GM of Detroit, I don't even think that I would think about it. Like, maybe I would take the calls just to see what, I think it would be silly to not take the call, but like, unless I'm absolutely like floored by the offer, I'm not even entertaining it.
I'll put it this way. I think the Tigers are at a point now where you only make that deal if it makes you a better team today.
That's interesting.
You know, I mean, because I don't think they're in a position where they're planning for 2027. Like, I think they want to be a better team tomorrow.
Now, yeah, they do.
You know, and even a Jackson Holiday, like, you don't know that he's going to do that. Whereas Tarek Skubal, you got one of the best pitchers in baseball right now under club control for a few years.
Right,
that's when you want to compete. You know.
Yep. All right, so there goes that. See, no bold predictions for us later. Tarek Skubal, spoiler alert, neither one of us think Tarek Skubal's getting traded. So moving on to this, the Mets and the Marlins right now. The Mets lead Miami 5-2 in South Florida. It was, what do we have here? Who got the start for the Mets today? I am getting absolutely. No, was it David Peterson? I am getting no internet right now. It's so bad. But top 6. 5-2 Mets over the Marlins right now in Miami. The Cardinals and Pirates in the bottom of the 6th. They're tied at 1. The Cincinnati Reds right now have a 3-0 lead in Atlanta against the Braves at the top of the 5th. And then 3 games that have just gotten started. The Cubs and Brewers right now just getting started. Bottom of the 1st, they're still scoreless. The White Sox have a 1-0 lead in Texas against the Rangers in the bottom of the 1st, and the Diamondbacks and Royals right now still scoreless in the bottom of the 1st as well. Phillies and Twins got delayed a little bit later today. And then as far as games later today, 8:40, Boston Red Sox and the Colorado Rockies in Colorado. It is Tanner Houck and Austin Gomber. Tanner Houck, 2.54 ERA, has been phenomenal for them as part of a slew, what it seems like, of Boston Red Sox pitchers that have exceeded expectations this year. So the Red Sox right now in Colorado, 8:40, that's the start time. 2 games at 9:40 today. The Astros and A's in Oakland, Spencer Arrighetti and Hogan Harris on the bump. Angels and Mariners in Seattle. Seattle trying to now climb back into a division lead with the Astros. Tyler Anderson getting the ball today against Bryce Miller. So that's going to be an interesting game as well. Solid pitching matchup there. And then the Giants and Dodgers tonight in Los Angeles. Blake Snell against your guy, River Ryan. What do you make of his stuff, Dalton? I mean, like, what do you make of River Ryan as a player?
He's nasty. He's nasty. So there was last season, there was a lot written about the Dodgers AA team, the Tulsa Drillers, and just how insane their pitching staff was, because they had basically a whole pitching staff of guys throwing upper 90s, and they were just blowing away other AA teams. Well, we're seeing those guys slowly but surely make their way up. Kyle Hurt, River Ryan, Landon Knack. We might see Nick Frasso at some point here as well. If there's one thing that the Dodgers have a whole lot of, it is talented young pitching. And River Ryan, currently the team's number 4 prospect. He is just another one. I cannot wait to watch him pitch tonight. Now he's coming back off of, I believe he's coming back off of an injury. So he's not fully built up, but I think they're looking for 5 innings, 80 pitches or so out of him tonight. I'm really excited to see how he looks. I think San Francisco provides like not a soft landing, but a soft-ish landing for him. And then we'll see how the Dodgers do against Blake Snell. I mean, that could go any direction. I could see him going 8 shutty. I could also see the Dodgers, drawing 7 walks in the first 3 innings and knocking them out. I have no clue how that's going to go.
It's just the nature of the business, man. Okay, let's go to the 1-2-3 inning, our first out today. Home Run Derby, All-Star Week. We are past the All-Star break. Here's the thing. I am a guy who, as a broadcaster, right? I like to support other broadcasters. I really do. Okay. I don't like to bash people in the industry. I just don't believe in it. Right. I don't like bashing people in the industry. I don't really like to bash networks all that much. Right. Because they work with what they have. I understand it. Okay. Here's the thing. The Home Run Derby broadcast is brutal. It's brutal, Dalton, and it hasn't gotten better in years. It's unbelievably awful. It makes my head hurt how bad this broadcast is. It's unreal, and it's everything. It's camera work. It's the format of the Derby. It's the broadcast team. I have a lot of respect for Carl Ravitch and Eduardo Perez and those guys, right? They've made a living in baseball. That's something that I hope that I can do in my life. Okay. But for the love of God, I miss Chris Berman. I miss them. I miss the old guys so much. The broadcast is terrible. The presentation of this Derby is terrible. Terrible, 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 terrible. That's me. That's me,
so,
dude.
I don't have the reservations you do about ESPN and their baseball broadcasts, so I'll go ahead and come out and say it.
There you go.
ESPN's coverage of baseball as a whole is a fucking abomination. It's horrendous. I am consistently floored by how not informed Carl Ravitch is when he does his Sunday night baseball broadcast. I'm consistently frustrated with Eduardo Perez. I'm consistently frustrated with the presentation style of it all, the interviewing players on the field during games in Sunday Night Baseball. I think it's horrendous. I think it's a bastardization of a baseball broadcast, and I despise watching it. I think Carl Ravitch mails it in every time he broadcasts baseball. I think ESPN as a network mails in baseball as a sport. They're not willing to put money into it anymore, and it shows in the quality of the broadcast. Okay, so I'm 100% with you, and I'm willing to say some of the things that maybe you're not, because I'm okay whether I have a future in this industry or not. I'll survive, right? Here's what I'll say. The Home Run Derby itself, the new rules, I like what they're trying to do, but it fell flat for me for a couple reasons. The first of which is I think it's a little bit too complicated. I think it's to explain to somebody who walks into a room when the Home Run Derby is already on, to explain to that person how this works is not an easy thing to do, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think the best thing they can do is go back to an out system rather than this timed thing where it feels like every round is kind of the same. I think going back to an out system makes more sense. They clearly took a step back in that direction this year by adding the swings, which I appreciate. But that's my general takeaway on the rules. My problem with the Home Run Derby right now, I have 2 major problems with it. The first one is you don't have the right stars in it. Don't get me wrong. Bobby Witt Jr. is one of the biggest stars in the game. But he's not one of the biggest stars in the game because he's a bona fide power hitter. Right? And a lot of the other guys that are in it are not among the biggest stars in the game. I love Teoscar Hernandez. It's been awesome to watch him succeed as a Dodger. I hope he signs an extension and stays in LA. I loved watching him win because I love Teoscar and I know how much it meant to him, and that was super cool.
Yeah.
But Teoscar Hernandez is not the kind of star that should be in this event. He's just not. Alec Boehm is not the kind of star that should be in this event. It should be Ohtani. It should be Judge. It should be Harper. It should be the guys that – it should be Soto. It should be the guys that we want to watch launch baseballs into the moon. So my opinion on the Derby is make whatever changes you need to make to the Derby so that those guys want to be a part of it, so that their organizations want them to be a part of it. My other gripe with this year's Derby in particular, and this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I'm willing to make it. Texas, I just think, is an incredibly sterile place to hold this kind of event. That ballpark has no character. That ballpark, like, it's new, it's nice, it's shiny, it's whatever, but that ballpark has no character. This All-Star Week had no character. All the Cowboy stuff seemed kind of forced and cringy. What they're doing with the uniforms in the All-Star game is just an abomination. Like, every single baseball fan to a man wants them to do something that wants them to just wear the uniforms.
Right.
But the almighty dollar, blah, blah, blah. Look, what it comes down to for me, I can deal with all of it if you got the right guys in the event. And as much as I enjoyed seeing Teoscar win it, they don't have the right guys in the event. And until they do, the event's going to fall flat. I also just think that it being Texas's turn was a bummer because I just think that ballpark is sterile, boring, and the crowd will let into it.
No, I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think that there's a way to avoid that, but I don't think that that's a hot take at all. I don't. Right? Like, unless you're planning on holding the All-Star game at Yankee Stadium every year, like, then I don't know that you really have an option. That's like I've said it before because I love Jerry World. You know what I mean? Like, I've been to Jerry World one time, and it was like watching a rock concert. It really is something else when you go there and watch a football game. I'm like, they should hold the Super Bowl here every year. They're never going to do that, but I think it would be more exciting. Here's the thing. Like, and I'll phrase it like this. I'll pose it to you as a question. When the Derby was just like it was, right? Out system, that's the way it was, right? 10 outs, hit as many home runs as you can. Did you think it needed fixing?
No, it didn't need fixing. It didn't need fixing.
That was
but MLB has to activate as many sponsorships as they can with the T-Mobile balls and the this and the that. Like,
I don't even care about that. Like,
but Mike, there's so much in baseball that didn't need fixing that we're fixing anyway.
Yeah.
Like, this is why Rob Manfred is my least favorite person in the sport, is because he's made an entire career out of fixing things that don't need fixing.
Yeah.
Let the game be. Let the game adjust to itself over time. I'm not going to get into all the pitch clock stuff, but like this, it's all born of the same bullshit for me, where we feel like we have to continue to engineer the game, like re-engineer the game every year to fit some new fan that we're trying to target. No, let the game be what it is, please.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. And like, okay, you want to shorten the game, right? You want to shorten it to a point, and I understand. Like, but I don't.
They do.
I get it, right? Neither do I. But what their goal is that they want everything to be short attention span. Everything happens right now, constantly moving, whatever. They want to get as close to that as they possibly can. I think that kind of cancels out, even if that's the argument you want to make, right? I think that cancels out when you see Aaron Judge hit a ball 520 feet. Like, I could sit and watch Aaron Judge take batting practice all day. Like, I could sit in a seat and watch Aaron Judge hit balls 500 feet for an hour. I and have no gripe with it. Now you've got, like, and I don't know how many of these guys I can come up with at the top of my head that are like this, but you named a few, right? Harper, Ohtani, Aaron Judge. I still think Stanton is among the people on that list that just, like, high exit velo can hit the ball pretty fucking deep. Like,
I think Stanton like if we're just like being technical about it, would be on that list.
Right.
But what about like an O'Neal Cruz?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What about Ellie De La Cruz? Like,
Ellie De La Cruz, right.
Like, you know, and hey, if you want to showcase like young guys, like throw James Wood in the event. That guy hits the ball a gazillion miles an hour. He did a million homers.
It's just silly.
They're not focused on the right things, man.
No, they're not. I hate how they feel like they need to rush the whole thing. I hate it. It feels rushed and it feels gimmicky.
The worst moment of that entire broadcast, outside of the national anthem, which, hey, I'm glad she's getting the help that she needs. But
yeah, right.
The worst moment of that whole broadcast to me, I think it was during I think it was while Teoscar Hernandez was hitting. I remember we were walking our dog. I had it on my phone, and I turned the event off when I heard it for a minute, just while we were walking back, because I was just like, I can't do this. Teoscar's up there swinging, trying to hit homers. And Carl Ravitch is asking Ken Griffey Jr., hey, so how about the fact that Shohei Ohtani both hits and pitches at the level that he does? Isn't that just incredible? Like, okay, first of all, Carl, we've covered this ground so many times on so many different broadcasts. Like we're really just playing the hits while Teoscar Hernandez is hitting in the home run derby. Like, why don't you tell me a story about the guy that's hitting? Or why don't you ask Ken Griffey Jr. about Ken Griffey Jr.? Or why don't you ask Ken Griffey Jr. about like how he would feel in that situation, or how he would approach the situation at hand? Instead, you're talking about Shohei Ohtani, who's not even participating in the event, and you're asking the most obvious question that's going to get the least interesting answer, which is, isn't it impressive that he both pitches and hits? Yeah, Carl, it's fucking impressive. Yeah, it is.
It really is remarkable. It's a terrible broadcast. It's a terrible and I think, and I said this to you 2 weeks ago, player interviews while people are hitting drive me nuts. Again, the whole thing as an amalgamation of shit. I can't stand it. I can't stand the way they do it.
There are only two ways I'm okay with it. One of them is during the All-Star game. Okay. The All-Star game, I think, is where you do that type of shit, right?
Fine.
If it's an exhibition. The other thing that I'm okay with is, during a game, let's say you got a pitcher who's not starting that day in the dugout, and you're talking to them during a game on the broadcast.
Right.
Right. But we don't even have people on the field during a game. We just don't.
Hate it. But anyway, I did find I'm assuming you know who Nicky Cass is, right?
Yeah, of course.
He's hysterical. When I see the video of him like zoomed in on the Jumbotron during the celebrity softball game as Coach L, like, you're doing the chicken wings sort of. I'm in Montreal, and I'm literally watching that video on my phone, and I'm just dying in front of all my friends. It's hysterical. He's really fantastic. But yeah, something's got to happen with that. Okay. Let's move on to this. Out number 2 in the 1-2-3 inning. So the Houston Astros at the moment are, where are we? Houston Astros are, so they're currently tied right now for first place as of today with the Seattle Mariners. Astros at 52 and 47. The Mariners are 53 and 48. So they are right now tied for the division. But the Astros are looking up and the Mariners are looking down at the very least, right? Dalton, you predicted a while ago that you picked the Astros to win this division, even after they were terrible to start the year. They seemingly have figured it out. So what do you make of all of this? How do you look at that division? How do you look at that shaping up?
Well, first, I want to provide a little bit more context into what exactly has happened here. The Mariners have been in first place in that division since May 11th.
Yeah.
Okay. Consecutively from May 11th until this last weekend. But what's more remarkable is yesterday was what, July 21st?
Yep.
Something like that, right?
Yep.
A month ago, June 18th, the Mariners had a 10-game lead in that division. And that's a month minus All-Star week, so we're talking like 3.5 weeks of ball.
Yep.
They lost a 10-game lead. Now you got injury concerns with Julio Rodriguez. They had to basically just kick Ty France to the curb because if he's not providing any hitting value, he's certainly not providing any value anywhere else. You know, I don't know what to say for Seattle because the pitching is obviously good, but I mean, how many hitters do they have to not develop? Like, you want to talk about the Yankees not being able to develop hitting?
Yeah,
Be
right.
glad you're not a Mariners fan, man.
Yeah.
Like Jared Kelenic, they gave up Edwin Diaz for Jared Kelenic, right? What was he in Seattle? Nothing.
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, even the guys who looked good for them last year have all fallen off a cliff. And what it tells me is organizationally, they just have no clue what they're doing on the offensive side. Like Jorge Polanco, like that bat is as reliable as they come in Minnesota for years. Goes to Seattle, can't hit.
Yeah.
Like it's a cursed place for hitters. I mean, even Julio Rodriguez himself has fallen completely off this year. And so
batting average right now for Julio, 687 OPS.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality is that they're one of the worst offensive teams in baseball, and it's really like it's got to be depressing for their fans because it feels like, oh well, why don't we go get guys at the deadline that can hit? I mean, sure, but you did that last offseason too, right? That's what you said going into last offseason. Let's go get some bats, and then you went and got some bats, and it's not helping. Like maybe at some point this team just doesn't know how to approach a ball game right from a hitting standpoint. Like maybe the scouting's off. Like I don't know, but they can't hit. And the Astros the Astros have always been the better team between the two. They got off to a shitty start. This is one thing that I've been consistent on since March. The Astros are going to win that division. You can still get them at minus 135 to do so. I still like that number. I'd bet it up to like I'd bet it up probably minus 170 right now.
Yeah.
That race, as weird as it sounds, I think is over. I think Seattle, I think Houston wins that division by 8+ games.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's interesting. And I don't think that that's too crazy because Seattle, I mean, we talked about this before, they are quite possibly the worst offensive team in all of baseball. I mean, they really cannot hit of qualified hitters, right? Like they have Victor Robles who has like 66 at bat, or not. I'm sorry, maybe not, but he's played like 60 games or something like that for them, and he's hitting like 288. Outside of that, it's Julio Rodriguez who's hitting 263. I don't think anybody else on the entire team is hitting over 230. Like they are bad offensively at every level.
Yeah, and Robles put up probably more than half of those numbers in Washington anyway, didn't
he? Right. So there you go. But like this is crazy. Julio Rodriguez 263, Cal Raleigh 209, Ty France who they just let go 223, JP Crawford 204, Mitch Garver who they brought in this year to be a middle of the order bat is hitting 170. 244, Josh Rojas, Mitch Haniger, 208, Luke Raley, 235. Like Jorge Polanco, like you said, 205. Like no offensive production. And I think we said this a couple weeks ago as well. Like this is not like a one or two trades and then you're all better sort of thing. I don't know that this is fixable this year. I don't.
The only way it gets fixed is if the guys already in the room start to hit better. Period. Right. I mean, because here's the thing: even if you go get Vladimir Guerrero Jr., like Toronto's a great place to hit. Seattle's not, right. And we've seen how cold Vladito can get. Like, I don't know how well that ends up working out. If I'm Vladito, I'm praying for a trade to Houston.
Yeah.
You know? Although I'm hearing that it's not as likely that they move him, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's just like it's a tough scene for Seattle. That division in general is really strange. I mean, you got a World Series winner from last year that looks like a seller at the deadline now.
I think they definitely sell. I think Texas.
But think about that, right? I mean, like how do you sell that to the fans? I mean, I guess you sell it as, well, we just won a World Series, so get over it. But like, I mean, geez, though, right? Like that's a tough scene. Perry Minasian in Anaheim, like trying to keep his job while also like the right thing to do organizationally is to sell. But like, does that help you keep your job? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Anaheim's just a mess as they always are. And I want to touch on Oakland just because I was listening to the baseball Barbiecast, the suspended barbecue guys do, and they brought up a stat that astounded me. The Oakland A's have the 4th most home runs in baseball this year.
That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
I heard that and I was like, holy cow, man. So
if you're the A's, you're trading the shit out of Brent Rooker, right? Like you have to.
You would think, right? The number of teams that could use a right-handed hitting outfielder. Now, granted, he's not much of a defender, but the number of teams that are willing to go after a guy like that anyway right now.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the Yankees are one of them. The Astros could use a guy like that. The Dodgers probably could, although the problem with him playing such bad defense and Shohei being our DH, I'm not sure that makes sense. But there are teams that would line up for a Brent Rooker type bat. But even Miguel Andujar, you could probably get something for him on the market too. And then also the pitching, right? I mean, Stripling will get traded somewhere and try to eat some innings. Alex Wood will get traded somewhere, try to eat some innings. I don't think Mason Miller moves. I think he's under team control till like 2029 or something absurd. But I mean, like that division is just like, what can you feel good about outside of the Astros? Like nothing really. I mean, even the Mariners, like that's not a good ball club.
Yeah, I think it's a 2-man race in the AL West. And because I agree, I think Texas is going to sell. The Angels and A's are obviously bad; they're out. It's really between the Astros, who everybody expected, and whether or not the Mariners can get their shit together. Like that. That's really the end of it.
Yeah,
that's what that division is. And I think, and again, this division is going to stray even further away from Seattle because Houston's going to get better. Houston's going to make. I mean, the moves that you could see Seattle making, like, are going to almost parallel what Houston's going to do, right? Houston's going to try and add a first baseman, whether it's Vladdy or whether it's Alonso or Yandy Diaz, Isak Paredes. Like they're going to try to find some sort of first base. Ryan McMahon, like they're going to try and find some sort of first baseman that can hit. I would imagine, like I said, Seattle's going to try to pick from that litter as well, but Houston's probably also going to add a bullpen arm or two. They might add a rotation arm if they really want to. Like, I don't know that they're going to like Dana Brown is going to be like, okay, look, I told you so. I told you we were good. And he just doubles down on this whole thing. I think the Astros could be pretty darn active. Like, it's going to get pretty ugly, I think, for Seattle in not that long.
Yeah, so I completely agree with the Astros. 19-7 since June 19th. It's a really good ball club. Like we shouldn't be surprised.
It's a good ball club.
So, and I mean, you look at what the Astros have the rest of the way. They've got some sellers left on that schedule. They also have some. They got the Dodgers this weekend and some others, but they've got games left with Seattle. They can keep beating up on them. They've got 2 more series left with Oakland. They get the Angels a couple more times. So I think Houston's got plenty of room to not just win the division, but create some separation, like I said earlier. So yeah, I mean, tough scene for Seattle.
Yep. Nope. I agree. Okay. Third out. Let's make some bold predictions. Dalton Brown. Second half, All-Star break is behind us. We got about 60-ish some odd games left in the regular season, about 2 months. So what do you have? Throw one at me. Let's see if it sticks.
So the direction I chose to go with this, I'm going to tell you who's going to be the wild cards on each side. That's how I'm going to go about it. I'm going to tell you why. I might mix in a couple trade predictions here and there, but
yeah.
The main thing is in the NL, I think we've cut the field about in half. Like Cincinnati's out, they're selling. Cubs are out, they're selling. I don't really view San Francisco as that much of a factor at this point, although they do have one of the easier schedules left. Washington is out, right? They're still in it in the standings, but they're selling.
Yeah.
So like who's really involved there still? Arizona, San Diego, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and the Mets. I'm willing to also cross out the Pirates and Mets. The Pirates because they can't hit, and I don't think they're willing to make the kind of investment that they need to change that. The Mets because they can't pitch, and I'm not even 100% sure that they're going to buy. So that leaves me with 3 teams for 2 spots because Atlanta's going to take one of those wild cards, right?
Yes. Yep.
So that leaves me with Arizona, San Diego, and St. Louis for those 3 spots. I think San Diego is easily the cream of those 3. I think San Diego, I'll touch on them later in the hot corner, which leaves me with Arizona and St. Louis. I am kind of liking Arizona more than I'm liking St. Louis. I don't think St. Louis's pitching is going to sustainably do what it's done lately. I know I'm wearing a Cardinals hat while I say that, but I don't think that St. Louis's pitching can hold up the way it's looked lately. And Arizona's starting to hit the cover off the ball the last few weeks. Like they're starting to come alive offensively. And I know Jordan Montgomery's been bad, but he's going to be back soon. Merrill Kelly's going to be back soon. Eduardo Rodriguez is going to be back soon. Like that pitching staff, kind of like the Dodgers, has some reinforcements coming down the pike where they're not going to have to rely so much on the Ryan Nelsons of the world. And so I think Arizona's a team like moving pretty quickly in a positive direction. So I think you end up with 3 teams out of the NL West: Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres, all making it. 2 out of the NL East with the Braves and Phillies. And then obviously whoever wins the Central, which will probably be Milwaukee at this point. Although Milwaukee is not a team that, I mean, they got pitching questions of their own. So that's what I have on the NL side. You have any thoughts there before I go to the AL?
Other than the fact that I think that that's like pretty chalk. Like I think, like if you really think about it, right? Like outside of the and we've beat the hell out of this dead horse, right? Of like how we're surprised that Milwaukee is where they are, right? Like outside of that, I don't know that I'm surprised by anything, right? Phillies, Braves, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres, Brewers. I think that, like, if you were to tell me that that was going to be the playoff picture, I would have said, yeah, okay, that's pretty likely.
And it's funny how like this little section of the season here between the All-Star break and the trade deadline is like really where you get your answers on these questions.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Because teams are declaring, am I going or am I not?
Buyer, seller, yeah.
We're already hearing those signals from these teams. And so these pictures are starting to get a lot clearer in each division, or excuse me, in each league. On the AL side, I am fascinated because I think there are 3 teams left fighting for 2 wild card spots. Okay. Obviously, either Yankees or Orioles are going to take one of the wild card spots. So the other 2, I think, comes down to Minnesota, Kansas City, and Boston.
Okay.
I don't put Seattle in the conversation. I am pretty cocksure Seattle is going to miss the playoffs. Like I'm not bought into anything that's going on up there. I hate to say it. I don't know that the Twins are going to make the playoffs.
It's interesting.
And I love the Twins, man.
I know.
I love the Twins. But like watching Boston for 27-ish innings this weekend, and knowing that was without the Dodgers facing Tanner Houck, like that's a really good ball club. Like that ball club can hit, and they're getting Tristan Casas back at some point. I think they'll probably acquire a reliever at the deadline, and I think they're a team that like if they choose to buy, I think that they're just as good as Minnesota already. Yeah. And the problem for Minnesota is like they just like Pablo Lopez, I think rounds back into form, but other than that, like Royce Lewis can't stay on the field. Carlos Correa is hurt. I mean, they need Byron Buxton to be a god if they want to kind of hold their position. I hate to say it, but I'm not that sold on it. And Kansas City is already showing that they're all in. I mean, that trade, like they gave up quite a bit for Hunter Harvey already.
Yeah.
I think Kansas City recognizes that they're getting a special like Jeremy Lin type season out of Seth Lugo. And I think Kansas City is like actually bought in, and I have a feeling they're going to finish ahead of Seattle, and Kansas City and Boston are going to take those 2 wild card spots. A little bit of a hotter take there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, I think the Red Sox are a game back right now of both of them. Right, Twins and the Royals right now are in those last two wild card spots. I would go as far to say that I'm pretty confident at the moment. Okay, as pessimistic as I am, that the Yankees will have that first wild card spot. I think Baltimore's a better team. But Boston is what Seattle should be, right? Like they're a team that like we didn't know Boston's pitching was going to be this good. We didn't know that Boston's offense was going to be this good, right? Like I said at the beginning of the year, this is an underdeveloped team with Duran and Wong and Rafaela and like who are they're whatever. Like they are whatever kind of players. Then Jaron Duran comes out and wins All-Star Game MVP. Like he's legit. Connor Wong is one of the better hitting catchers in baseball at the moment. Like you're seeing guys that are producing for the Red Sox that you're thinking to yourself, you're like, this is a team that was dumb enough to trade Mookie Betts, and none of those players panned out for them, right? Verdugo's playing for the Yankees. Jeter Downs is nowhere. And now you got Connor Wong, who's this skinny little catcher who is probably going to spend the rest of his life in AAA. Like, but no, like that's not what he is. He's a legit player. You know, this is a legit team. Tanner Houck, Cutter Crawford, that were like they're getting legit innings. Kenley Jansen seems to be doing a solid job for them as well. I agree. I think they're probably going to add to the bullpen. I wouldn't be surprised, like you said a number of weeks ago, if they went out and got another starting pitcher, right? Because they recognize that if they have to go against the Yankees in a playoff series, they're probably going to need another arm, right? So I don't think that that's all too crazy. Minnesota's success to me relies very heavily on health. Like that's, I think, a big thing for them. If Royce Lewis is not healthy for them, I think I agree with you. Like he's had so much trouble staying on the field, but when he's on the field, he's phenomenal. Like that's the kind of like you're taking a big chunk out of the middle of their order if he's not healthy, and that's just one guy.
If you were to tell me that Royce Lewis, Byron Buxton, and Carlos Correa are all going to be on the field together for all of August and September,
yeah,
I would pick them to overtake the Guardians in that division.
Why am I not surprised?
But but the reality is, like Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton, both like just the two of them being on the field at the same time feels like a blue moon. Like, and you hate to kind of put that on guys, right? Because guys can't control injuries. That sucks, and I feel for them, right? But it's just, I mean, how many times do we have to see this with the Twins bats where they just can't keep these guys on the field? So look, I love the Twins. I'm rooting for the Twins. I hope I'm very wrong on this take. But when I look today on, July 22nd, they're the odd team out for me.
Yeah. So, all right, you ready for mine? Here we go. Yeah. And I only have a handful, but okay, so the first one for me is, and it goes back to my rant before. I think the Yankees do not get the first wild card. I think they will get the second or the third. And I think the likely of that scenario, again, and it's kind of funny that you're talking about this, is I think Minnesota jumps them. And I think it's possible that we see Boston jump them. That's again, we're looking for bold here.
I mean, that's certainly bold. I would love to hear, because Mike, about a month ago, well, maybe not a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, you were like,
I was all in.
You were Yankees the best team in baseball.
I was all in. You're 100% right.
I mean, going into that Dodgers-Yankees series, like I think that's about where you were, right? And that was early June.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So talk to me. I mean, why so pessimistic to that?
Because I don't know that I see a rebound. Like I think that the Yankees will make moves. I do think that they'll be aggressive. I think they'll get a bat or two. They'll probably get a couple of bullpen guys. I get it. But I think the stretch of great play from Volpe is over. I think that LeMahieu is done. I think Wells is going to cool off. Like Ben Rice seems to already have been figured out. I'm not even sure he stays in the lineup when Rizzo gets healthy. Like, I'm pessimistic because I don't see anybody in that Yankee lineup primarily. I don't see anybody in that Yankee lineup consistently producing outside of Soto and Judge. If it's not Soto and Judge, I think this problem that they're going to have, like, it would not surprise me if they are just a 500 baseball team the rest of the way through. Like, that's just kind of the way that I see it. You're going to see them on certain days, and Aaron Judge is going to hit a 470-foot bomb, and Juan Soto is going to hit a 450-foot bomb, and you're going to get like one other homer from some other guy. Like Alex Verdugo is going to hit a homer one day, and everybody's going to be like, see, the Yankees are back. But then the next day, they'll, get shut out through 7 innings and have 2 hits. Like, that's the kind of feeling that I get from this team right now.
So let me help define this for you. It sounds like you think that the Yankees are the 2021 to 2023 Angels with better pitching.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I would go that far. I don't know that I could ever compare. I don't know that I could compare ever the Yankees to the Angels, because screw the Angels. But you
get the comparison I'm making, where it's Trout and Ohtani, and then it's
a bunch of crap. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly a hot take. I'm not as pessimistic as you are on the Yankees, partially just because like they are going to go out and get at least one more impact bat. I think they're just going to find a way to do so. Like I think Rooker makes a ton of sense for the Yankees, and I think when that lineup is Volpe, Torres, Soto, Judge, Rooker, Stanton. Like I think it starts to get a little bit deeper than we imagine it is now.
Yeah.
Verdugo in there too. I think a guy like a Luis Rengifo out of Anaheim is also like the type of infield bat that can help lengthen a lineup a little bit. And I think the pitching is like kind of okay already. Maybe they go get another arm or two, but like I don't know. I mean, I don't think the Yankees are like world beaters, but I think that like all you got to do is be in a position that like you're good enough that when you get hot, it can be enough. And they're definitely one of those teams.
Yeah. Well, listen, I hope you're right. Here's another one. I don't think the Phillies are going to be the number 1 seed in the National League.
That I agree with wholeheartedly.
I don't think they will be. I do think the Dodgers take over. And a lot of it is because of what you just said before of they have a lot of guys coming back. And not only do they have a lot of guys coming back, this becomes a part of it. Now, here you go. You're ready for this. This is you're going to roll your eyes at me. I think the Dodgers, I saw the report the other day, and I completely buy it. Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert will be Dodgers by the end of the deadline.
It's not happening.
Why not? Why not?
It's just not happening. I'm telling you right now, the word that I've heard out and about in the world is that the White Sox want a Juan Soto package for Luis Robert. Dodgers don't operate that way. It's not happening.
Here's
it's not happening with Crochet either. Crochet is a guy that like is gonna end up getting shut down. I'm telling you right now, watch for the Padres on those names. Like,
I know. I don't.
When you say it, but it's not.
I don't disagree. I know that that's where your head is at, and I understand that that's true.
Let me present an alternative plan for you which is more along the lines of what I think might happen. I think Randy Arozarena is in play for the I think Isaac Paredes could be in play for the Dodgers, although I question whether they would want to move him given the control that's left with him.
Yeah.
I think they could be in on like Zach Eflin or Zach Littell with the Rays. I do think the Dodgers will add impact players while also getting healthier. And I think that this is a team that, like, getting into August and September could just absolutely roll. Whereas Philly, like, every team's going to hit doldrums, and they really haven't yet.
Yeah.
And they're coming. Like, they just are. It's just the reality. And right now, like, as we speak right now, Philly is 4.5 games up on the Dodgers. That's nothing. I mean, that's a series, right? I mean, like the Dodgers still host the Phillies for a series, and the Dodgers hackles will be out for that series after getting swept in Philly when we were like a shell of ourselves. So
yeah, right.
I agree with that take. I still think the Dodgers win 100 games. So yeah.
Here's my reasoning for the trade thing, and and to me, I think it's pretty simple. This is a team that gave Shohei Ohtani $700 million. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and again, you know them better than I do, but I think they're going to look at what they did with Ohtani and they're going to say, okay, like obviously there's an all-in mentality there. They've always been, I get it, but I think it's more likely the Dodgers make one gigantic move than 4 medium-sized moves. Like, I think they look at this and they're going to just be like, we're going to hit one more home run in the middle of the year and we're going to roll. That's my whole deal. And even if it's not Crochet and Robert, which I don't think is an impossibility, because I think the White Sox are dumb, and I think that they'll sell them for a bag of peanuts, even though they are saying that they, are going to hold out. I just don't. I don't see it.
I think the White Sox are the opposite kind of dumb.
You think they're the kind to hold on to him for too long?
I think the White Sox are the kind of dumb to overplay their hand, and I think they're going to end up shipping guys late to teams, and like they will get underpaid, but I just don't. I don't think it's going to be the Dodgers. Now, I do like the concept that you're bringing of like one big fell swoop move. Like the Dodgers have done that historically, time and time again.
Scherzer and Trey Turner.
Carl Crawford, Josh Beckett, and Adrian Gonzalez.
Right.
Mookie Betts and David Price. This is something that the Dodgers throughout their history have done over and over.
Yeah.
So I don't think I don't disagree with that. I just think it looks more like Randy Arozarena and Zach Eflin, or something along those lines. I think feels more likely. I mean, it could even be, Jazz Chisholm is hard for me to imagine, but somebody of that ilk, and like a Trevor Rogers from Miami. That
Tarek Skubal and Riley Green from Detroit.
Now, if you were to say Tarek Skubal and Mark Hanna, who I think moved, or Jack Flaherty and Mark Hanna, there you go. That's one that I think could be realistic.
I don't know that you want Mark Hanna at the moment. Mark Hanna's OPS, I think, in the last like 2 months is like 470.
I'm not. Or here's another one: Lane Thomas and Trevor Williams.
Nah, it doesn't move the needle for me. That's the thing.
You haven't watched enough of the bottom of the Dodgers order, if that's what you're thinking.
I don't know. It's mid for me. I feel like they're gonna do something bigger. It's just my feeling.
I hope you're right, although I don't hope you're right on Robert and Crochet, because that's a guy on an innings limit and a guy who I don't trust to stay healthy or give his full effort. So
I always saw Crochet as a bullpen guy anyway. Like, I know that he's doing well as a starter this year, but I always thought that
you're not going to pay bullpen guy price for him. Go get Eric Fetty then.
Yeah, well, yeah, right, exactly. That I understand completely. Yeah, and again, the more you say it, the more I understand it. Right, where it's like, as soon as that rumor came out of Garrett Crochet and the Padres, I was like, here we go again. Yeah. It's too good. It's too funny, man.
The Padres are going to go nuts. I'm telling you right now, they're going to go nuts. I don't know what they're going to do,
Do they even have anything to go nuts with? What does their farm system look like?
They still have some guys. I mean, it depends on
Sheesh.
who they're willing to move, but they still have some guys. They've got some young arms that are coming up in their bullpen. They've got, Ethan Salas if they really want to get crazy. They've got some guys that can move.
They do have Ethan Salas, who's, I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take that kid to get to the major league. Isn't he like 17 years old?
Yeah, he's really
Yeah, he's a baby. He's not going to see the majors for another 6 years.
right, but that doesn't do any good for an AJ Preller who wants to keep his job.
You know what? That's true. That's definitely true. Okay, so that concludes the 1-2-3 inning. Let's get into another score update before we get into the hot corner. As I said before, the Yankees and Rays, they concluded earlier today 9-1. The Yankees took a win in New York. And we do have another game that went final. The Pirates taking a 2-1 win in Pittsburgh against the St. Louis Cardinals. Palante with 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned for St. Louis. A very solid start for him. Mitch Keller, on the other hand, 7 innings, 1 earned on 6 hits. We talk about it a lot. Pittsburgh rotation going forward. Jared Jones, Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller could be pretty exciting. But they don't. I mean, again, you said it before. They don't hit nearly enough. This is not about it.
What's funny about it, like I heard this idea floated on a podcast I was listening to earlier, that like if the Pirates were of a different ilk in terms of just like how they run their organization, that's a team that like can you imagine if the Pirates went out and traded for Luis Robert, how perfect that would fit?
Yeah, no, it would work.
Like, and they have prospects to do something like that. I mean, they've got plenty on the farm, especially like arms. They've got plenty of them on the farm. The Pirates could go out and splash for a Rosa Reina. Like, they have the ability to make that kind of deal. I'm not sure that they have like the balls to do it.
Yeah.
But like, if the Pirates were to really invest in this thing, and like let's say they went and got Ryan McMahon and they went and got Luis Robert, and you're adding those two guys into that lineup with Brian Reynolds and O'Neal Cruz, now you've got like a legit contender. Like, they're not that far off. I hope they do something. I think it'd be fun.
I do too. I think it would take more than 2 bats though. Like, that lineup is not good. It's not good.
It would take. I mean, look, it would take more than 2 bats before I'm viewing it as like a good lineup. But if that lineup is serviceable, right, or like decent with that pitching, they could go on a run.
That's true. No, you have a point. So anyway, like I said, 2-1. Pirates took a win in St. Louis. I'm sorry, in Pittsburgh. My apologies. Tigers and Guardians in the bottom of the 9th. Guardians down to their last out, 8-2. The Tigers leading them in Cleveland. Bottom of the 9th as well for the Mets and Marlins. A 6-3 lead for the Mets in Miami. Top of the 8th right now for the Reds and the Braves in Atlanta. 4-0 Cincinnati leads. Cincinnati getting a really solid start at Hunter Green. 7 innings, none earned, 2 hits on 7 Ks for Hunter Green for the Cincinnati Reds. It's a shame that they're going to end up selling. Cincinnati is such an interesting team to me. They're so young. They have so many interesting players. I have a feeling that Jonathan India is going to be gone by the time the deadline comes around. Maybe I mean, but they're so interesting to me.
I mean, so the problem for the Reds, like, I think they sealed their fate this weekend getting swept in Washington. And that following what was a not so great stretch, before it, like they kind of sealed their fate. That being said, I want the Reds to be good. I lived right down the road from there. Games are a ton of fun. They have great baseball fans. I don't think they're going to sell in a way that's detrimental to their future. Like, no. I think you're going to see Frankie Montas get moved, right? Like, maybe a bullpen piece or two. Jonathan India probably goes. But, like, you're keeping Spencer Steer around. You're keeping Matt McClain around. You're keeping Encarnacion. You're keeping De La Cruz. You're keeping that core intact. Fairchild, all those guys. So, I think what it comes down to for Cincinnati is, like, can you invest in the right guys at some point? Like, are you willing to spend at the top of the market? Can you continue to develop these players? Because let's be honest, if the Reds were 53-47 instead of 47-53, then that's 6 games, right? But if that's where they're at right now, that team's probably a buyer. So they're really not that far off. I don't think they need to blow it up.
No, I don't. No, I wouldn't blow it up. I'm more thinking I'm upset that they're not better. I think in a playoff series they would have been a very exciting team to watch.
By the way, another note on this game, just while we're talking about it, like I almost went with the hot take that the Braves don't take the first wild card seed. I kind of think the Padres do. And it's just Atlanta has reached a point for me where like one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to go absolutely bonkers at the deadline like they did in 2021 acquiring outfielders, or they're just going to be like, well, we're rolling with what we got, and maybe this ends up being a lost season. And I am trending toward the latter for them. I think they don't get me wrong, they're going to do something. But I'm trending toward the latter for them because they don't have the farm right now. Like they just don't.
Right.
And like with Max Fried being sidelined with a forearm injury, which can lead to all different kinds of other issues, serious injury to Ozzy Albies, obviously Acuna is out. Like the injury, like Michael Harris is on, who knows where this guy is. It's kind of a tough scene there. Obviously Strider, right? Like I am feeling like Atlanta is a team that like, if I'm the Braves, I don't know how crazy I go at the deadline. Like I think I might just be like, let's acquire a couple small pieces, see if we can make a run. But the reality is, like, I mean, unless they make a late comeback tonight, they're 9 games over 500.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not running away from anybody,
right.
And it's not like they're actively getting better right now. I mean, thank God for them that Chris Sale's been what he's been.
Yeah,
and Reynaldo Lopez has been what he's been. But like outside of those two guys, I mean, you're trusting Spencer Schwellenbach to pitch huge innings. It's tough.
Yeah, Reynaldo Lopez, by the way, who was on an absolute tear, is human. Apparently, gave up 4 runs in 6 innings today against the Cincinnati Reds. It really is remarkable. My buddy, my buddies who I went, it was his bachelor party this past weekend. Sorry, not the weekend before, whatever. I'm all camoobled. But he was saying like Chris Sale turning into Chris Sale, and he's a Met fan, keep in mind, was the easiest thing to predict ever because that's just what the Braves do. Like he's so sick and tired of the Braves that as soon as they got Chris Sale, he's just like, all right, he's going to be Cy Young Chris Sale again. And oh, would you look at that? He sort of is.
See, but here's the thing. Fans of teams like the Mets, they love to just pretend that that's all by chance. Mm-hmm. Like, no, it's about the culture in the building. It's about how you develop your talent. It's about, like, how you're setting guys up to succeed. And we've talked about this on the show countless times, right? Sure. Like, there's a reason that guys go to places like Seattle and Queens and get worse. And there's a reason guys go to places like the Dodgers and the Braves and the Astros and get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess at some point you can't keep just being, oh, well, they're lucky. He's going to figure it out over there. It's like, oh, yeah, it's not a coincidence though. Like,
yeah,
there are real differences between these organizations.
Yeah, nope, 100% right. The Cubs right now lead 1-0 over the Brewers. Phillies 2-0 right now, bottom of the first, over the Minnesota Twins. In Minnesota, Chicago right now with a 2-1 lead over the Rangers. The White Sox winning that one, heading into the bottom of the fifth. The Royals right now with a 5-3 lead in Kansas City over the Diamondbacks in the bottom of the fourth. And the Rockies with a 4-0 lead in Colorado against the Red Sox in the bottom of the third. Like I said before, Astros A's starting tonight, 9:40, Spencer Arrighetti, Hogan Harris. Angels and Mariners in Seattle, again, 9:40 Eastern. Tyler Anderson, Bryce Miller on the bump there. And then Blake Snell, River Ryan tonight for the Dodgers and Giants in Los Angeles. Okay, so that's it for the score update. I apologize if any of these scores are delayed. For some reason, I am getting some sort of internet issue. I don't understand, but whatever, no big deal. Okay, Dalton's Hot Corner. Put some more money in your pocket. Dalton, what do you have for us, bud?
I want to tie two quick loose ends.
Yeah.
Just a couple thoughts that are bouncing around in my head, and then I'm going to give you some bets here.
Yeah.
I know I've said a whole bunch of positive things about the Red Sox on this show. This is kind of a shaky moment for them. Like, so you get swept in LA. It happens. You had some close games, didn't come through. Down 4-0 in Colorado with Tanner Houck struggling is not a good sign.
Yeah.
For a couple reasons. Number one, your bullpen is beat to shit after that LA series. Like, it just is. You played extra innings. You gave up a ton of runs. Now you're in Colorado at Coors Field with Tanner Houck struggling and not looking like he's going to get through 4 or 5 innings.
Right.
And Kenley Jansen did not travel to Colorado because of the AFib issues that he's had dating back to his time with the Dodgers. Totally understand him not wanting to do, he's had some cardiac moments in that, when he traveled to Denver before. So you have to understand that. But the Red Sox don't get an extra guy because it's not an IL stint.
Right.
So they're a man down in their bullpen in Colorado, an already beat up bullpen. And the Rockies can knock the ball around that yard a little bit when they get going. If they were to lose 2 out of 3 in Colorado, and then you go into a series with the Yankees, an ugly week for Boston right now is a big deal. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's going to be an ugly week, but this is a tricky spot for them. So just something to watch out for. The only other small note that I had, River Ryan, the Dodgers number 4 overall prospect who's starting tonight, it just popped back into my mind, and this is part of what makes the Dodgers such a beautiful thing. The Dodgers traded Matt Beatty for him 2 years ago. It's just what we do, man. Anyway, all right. I'll jump into the hot corner for you. I'll stop filibustering. I got 2 things, neither of which will be a surprise. The Mariners to miss the playoffs at DraftKings right now, -105. Anything in the neighborhood of even money there, -105, -110, even -115. I love it. If they don't win that division, I don't think they're taking a wild card spot, and I don't think they're winning that division. So Mariners at -105 to miss the playoffs outright is a slam dunk in my opinion. As much as gambling can be a slam dunk. I love that play. Another one, and it goes back to how aggressive we know they're going to be. The Padres at DraftKings are plus money to make the playoffs right now. Plus 125.
Mm-hmm.
And for all the questions there are about these other NL wildcard teams, are they going to buy? Are they going to sell? We all know what the Padres are doing, don't we?
Right.
So, why would we not invest in the Padres at plus 125 to take one of those wildcard spots?
Right.
I think that's an obvious bet. I'd bet them up to -125, so of course I'm going to bet them at plus 125. Yep. What do you think of those?
No, I agree. I think that's pretty solid. I think that's I think the Padres are almost a shoo-in for the playoffs. I really do. I can't imagine a picture of where they don't make it. Because I agree. I'm not a buyer in Pittsburgh. I'm not a buyer in the Mets. I'm not that's not how I see it. It's, to me, like you said, you can pretty much cut this whole thing in half, where it's okay, it's St. Louis, it's Arizona, it's the Padres. The Braves are going to get a spot, but I just given their track record of what they want to do with their roster, how aggressive they are, how they want to improve their roster, I can't imagine that they're not a better team 2 weeks from now than they are today. So I agree. I think that's a shoo-in. And the Mariners, look, you can't be successful. You cannot sustain success if you are that poor offensively. They just can't hit. They can't hit. And especially, Julio Rodriguez has been their best hitter, but he's been mid all year. You know, like he's been so painfully average to below average all season that it's not fixable with one or two guys. Like we were saying, they need these guys to improve, and I'm not sure that that's coming. We have, 4 months worth of, of season that tells us that the turnaround is just never coming for Seattle. They have all the pitching in the world, but it's just not going to get them anywhere. So the plus side for the Mariners, though, I think, is that it's not like their road to the playoffs at the moment in a wild card scenario is all that steep. Like, if you really think about it, right? Like, you'd imagine the Yankees are going to get a spot. The Twins are pretty good, but given health, you don't know where they're going to end up. The Royals are still a very young, inexperienced team that could very easily fall flat. Same thing with the Red Sox. Like, it's not impossible to picture a scenario where they end up in the playoffs. But again, I think it's an uphill battle for them, no doubt.
The thing with the Royals, though, like, number one, I think they're better than Seattle today. Like, I just think they're better. They're a better team. But I would push back a little bit on the young and inexperienced. I mean, you got Salvador Perez, Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo. Like, they invested in veteran guys there. Not like a ton of them. Like, the balance of the roster is still young. But, like, I think the moves that they made look really good in retrospect now. And the fact that they're already in early July investing in that bullpen tells me that they're dead serious.
Yeah.
And they have the prospect capital to do some things. So, I don't know. I think the Royals are like, if you give me Royals, Mariners, go to my head, who's the better team right now? Royals. Red Sox, Mariners, Red Sox. Twins, Mariners, Twins. I think they're the worst out of those 4 teams.
Yeah.
And those other 3, I think you can have interesting debates about. But I don't think Seattle belongs in that conversation. So and they're certainly not. I mean, it's funny to say this while they're tied, but like, I don't think they're catching Houston either. So to me, it's almost too easy.
No, I agree. Listen, if you were to ask me today if I think they make the playoffs, I don't think that they do. Like I said, I don't think they just don't hit enough. All I'm saying here is that I think their road to the playoffs is not like uneclipsable. It's not like this insurmountable mountain where you have legitimate teams that are all catastrophically better than them. I don't know that the Red Sox and the Royals, like, they are, but it's not like they're that much better than Seattle.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. 100%. Yeah.
But I think from a betting perspective, I think it's certainly worth the look and probably the throw. Okay. That does it for us. Dalton, any last words? Or are you going to let me go to bed because my COVID-riddled ass is tired?
Definitely go to bed. My last words are basically just, I'm looking forward to Dodger Hate Week, looking forward to watching River Ryan pitch, and looking forward to doing this again next week.
There you go. All right, as for us, that's Dalton Brown. I'm Mike Guido. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network, the only exclusive baseball podcast on the Grid Network. We'll see you next week.